I'm Kelli Lemon.
And I'm Michael Paul Williams.
And welcome to the After the Monuments podcast, where we look at events and news about race in a historical context and see how, too often, history repeats itself.
Before we get started, After the Monuments is proud to receive support from VCU Massey Cancer Center. Massey Cancer Center wants you to imagine a future without cancer. All it takes is one, a revolutionary idea, a promising clinical trial, or a new breakthrough. See how Massey is developing new approaches to prevent and treat cancer for every person in every community. Learn more about this future for everyone at masseycancercenter.org.
Welcome to After the Monuments, a real talk about race. Michael Paul Williams, Kelli Lemon. I personally am extremely excited about this next guest because we grew up together. I know him personally, but more important, I am just excited about the work that he is doing right now within the community, around the nation, and all over the place. Devon Henry is our guest today. Welcome to After the Monuments, Devon.
Thank you, Kelli.
And I have to let the audience know, Team Henry is a sponsor of the After the Monuments podcast. Not the reason you were on the show. Your story is why you were on the show. But I wanted to acknowledge and say a personal thank you. It makes sense. The man that takes down the monuments should be one of the people that is not only on the show, but can be recognized as a sponsor of the show. So thank you.
Perfect sense.
Thank you.
I'm proud to be a sponsor.
Yeah. So Devon.
So Kelli.
Let's just jump right into it. If you are not familiar with what has gone on nationally, but more so in the Richmond region over these last 2 years with the death of George Floyd, Richmond became a centerpiece of conflict and racial justice as our monuments on Monument Avenue were a center focus or centerpiece of protest, of kind of reclaiming, of so many different things. And you were there. I mean, right there in the middle of it, as authentic as you could be. And I think that that's what really makes this dope. So I'm going to let Michael Paul start off with any questions, and then I'm going to start adding them in.
Yeah,
So.
That's
All
right.
right. I want to hear more about this origin story here. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Newport News, Virginia, where Kelli and I were talking about the connection was that our parents both worked in the McDonald's Corporation. So my first job was obviously McDonald's when I was 14 years old. So never was a stranger to hard work, never was a stranger to, hey, you want something, you got to go work for it to get it. So my mother made sure I worked, and the first store or restaurant that I worked in was in Yorktown that had this 57 Chevy, and just got to know a lot of people in that Yorktown area while I was from Newport News, but just, and then my mother and, like I said, Kelli, dad, and they just grew into a relationship, and as a result, we were the byproduct of that relationship. And we just, every time we would see each other, it was always, maybe not one time.
Yeah,
but,
that one
but
time. Don't you guys talk about that one
but
time.
for the most part, it was always love, and I've always been a fan, her biggest cheerleader, cheering her on and supporting her in all her endeavors.
And vice versa, too. Yeah. I mean, again, I never thought this dude would be the person that is making such an impact for what's going on with us with racial healing.
So what did you envision yourself doing when you were working at McDonald's? What did you see as your career path?
Yeah, so I was actually I attended Norfolk State University, where shameless plug, but proud HBCU alum and currently chair of the Board of Visitors at Norfolk State. But while I was matriculating through Norfolk State, I was a biochemistry major. And so I thought I was going to be a physician and wanted to be a doctor. And the organic chemistry started taking its toll on me, and realizing the more work and school that I was like, ooh, more school, and more school. Maybe there's another path for me to do something. And when I graduated, I went to work for a little company called General Electric, and they got this little meatball that they have on that I wore on the shirt. But it was at GE that I learned more about me, learned more about what I like, and I did one of those rotational programs. So the corporate leadership programs, highly coveted. A lot of folks want to be in that program. Somebody saw something in me that I'm eternally grateful that they did, because it was truly a training ground that some of the best and brightest have been there. Jack Welch, Jeff Immelt, the chairmans, we had access to these people going through these programs. And so as I stumbled upon the infrastructure division and was traveling all around the country, building things and designing, yeah, I kind of like this. I like seeing something on paper and then bringing it to life. And that's kind of how I got into construction 16 years ago.
I was about to ask when Team Henry started. So,
Yeah,
16 years ago.
16 long years ago. And 2006, right? So if you can imagine what was happening 6, 7, 8, you got to start in a business. You put everything you got into this business, every life saving, told your wife, hey, you got to believe in me. She leaves her job. She was working at MCV. And she says, all right, I got you. We go do this thing. And then it's the recession, the bottom fell out, right? So we just had to regroup, rethink about what we thought we wanted to do. And then, we started going more into the federal government work and then just building upon that and pivoting, right? And anything in business, right? You think you got a plan, and then you say, you got to go this way.
Yep.
And it's not always by choice, right? It's a lot of times by circumstance. And the circumstance that we had was it was the huge recession, and folks had to pivot and figure out how are you going to save or what you started to build.
Yeah.
And I had my daughter at that time too, so it was definitely a tough time.
And Team Henry Enterprises, before you started taking down the monuments, was, you had national clients. You were not just in Virginia. You were all over the nation, right?
It's interesting you should say that, Kelly, because it's funny when a lot of this stuff started happening with the monuments, folks looked at me and my company as a fly-by-night, kind of, this guy just came in and did this thing and took all this and did all that. But we had been in business, for quite some time, had generated a reputation and clientele, and we had offices from Miami up to New York, right? So we were pretty much working the whole Eastern Seaboard prior to COVID. But yeah, every agency within the government, the federal government we worked for, is a client. The Department of Transportation, Department of General Services here in the state, and then some big clients like J.P. Morgan Chase, McDonald's, a ton of local developers here. And then one of our big things is that, the work that we've done on the university campuses, from Virginia State to University of Virginia, Norfolk State, Virginia Tech. Yeah, so we've been busy.
Yeah. I love to brag when I go to UVA and be like, yeah, my homeboy built the hospital. Yeah, my homeboy built
Talk to
this.
him.
Yeah,
Talk
my
to him.
homeboy built this. Especially, and we'll get into this in a little bit, being a Black alum from the University of Virginia, that's not something that most of us can brag about.
Yeah.
And so it always feels good that I can brag about that for you. My question, and I know the answer, but can you tell me about that call, that first call that you got asking, would your company be able to take down these monuments?
Yeah.
And how that first call went?
The call.
Right?
The call, right?
The call.
The call that kind of turned our world upside down in some sense. It actually was from Clark Mercer, who was the chief of staff for the former governor Northam. And prior to that, I was in meetings, and I had like all kinds of messages on Facebook, on text messages, calls, and then folks just, I'm looking at my phone like, did something happen? What's going on? And what it was Clark was trying to get to me, right? And so there was like, he had called me and left me a message, and I was in a meeting. It's like, you need to call this guy back. You need to call him back. And I knew who Clark was. So when I called him, he said, Devon, hey, we're going to do something. We want you to be involved. Matter of fact, we want you to do it. we are going to take down Robert E. Lee.
Mm.
I was like, woo.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay. And this is on June 4th, I
Mm.
believe, of 2020. And I said, all right, let me think through this. Are you sure you're up for this? I'm like, yeah. Let me think through this. Let me figure out, a lot going through my head at this time. Not just and what folks fail to realize, it's not just the application of the removal, right?
Yeah.
It's the logistics, it's the energy, it's the environment, it's everything else that's going on. The construction part is what we do every day. We know it, but it's everything else that you're trying to think through, and you're remembering what you read and what you've seen in the newspaper, in the news about other instances where they've taken down statues. So all that's playing in my head, and I say, hey man, give me some time. I'll call you back. Few things that I wanted to make sure I did. I wanted to make sure I talked to my family, my kids, my wife. I also wanted to make sure that our team and Team Henry, that everybody was okay with what we were about to do, because it's literally going to change things. And so talk to the wife, talk to the kids. My kids was like, Dad, you never ask us about, projects. Why are you coming to us now? And I said, well, this is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And, my son, who was 11 at the time, was like, you're always going to be my hero. And I think this is special, right?
So when you say a little different, what do you mean?
When in regards to
The kids.
Taking these, when you're telling them, when they're saying, why are you asking us this?
Yeah.
What
So I told them there are statues in the city of Richmond that for decades folks have been trying to get to come down. And for whatever reason or not, they have not. And there's a lot of energy on both sides about them either staying up or coming down. And I said, things could potentially get a little crazy. You could probably see your dad in the newspaper a little bit more. And mind you, we were coming off of the memorial project at UVA, Memorial to Enslaved Laborers. And so we had receiving very, very solid and positive press. I said, it's going to be a little different. It's going to be a lot different than that. And they understood as I was explaining to them, and I don't think as I didn't, truly understand the full, total gravity of what was at stake. But they were in. And my wife, she was in. The team, most of them were in. And
so
we just had to work through that.
What were the concerns? What was the ones who weren't in, what were they saying?
Devon, what are we doing? This is some didn't agree with it, right?
So didn't agree with it from a philosophical standpoint, or thought I ain't getting in that cherry picker for somebody to take some shots at me or something?
Both.
Both. You had folks that were there that felt like philosophically they did not agree with it.
That were there.
That were.
What was their problem with it philosophically?
Well, one guy says he was a history major, and he feels that history should be history and remain as what it is for you in its current sense or state for you to be able to learn from it.
You say that about any building that's taken down.
100%. 100%.
Everything has history.
Yeah. So we didn't agree on it, and he was the main person that didn't agree. And there were some that just said, look, this is not something that we're totally with, but we recognize this is a contract. They looked at it from a more professional side, right? I'm going to do this because it's my job, right? Not because I want to do it. Me, Devon Henry, a black man, I'm a black man that understands that what these statues and monuments have represented for years. So I want to see them come down, and to be the guy that kind of leads that charge. Shit.
Yeah, I hear their concerns about the history. History is not this static thing that stays put and never. What you all were doing was historic.
Yeah.
So the idea of being a part of history did not have any appeal for the people who were like, well, this is history. I don't know if we should take these down.
Zero.
Probably could never even think about it
They
that
couldn't
way.
get past their initial thoughts to get to the point of where we are today.
Yeah.
I mean, did it ever get heated as far as, no, we should not be doing this?
No.
Okay.
No. We didn't have to go there.
Okay. What did you think were you surprised at how many, I mean, the narrative is other firms wanted nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Either for philosophical reasons or for safety reasons.
Yeah.
What did you think of that? And what do you think was the predominant hesitance? Was it philosophical or
And
safety?
Did any other firms
For
reach out
other
to you?
firms?
Yeah. So, that's such an interesting question. And honestly, I can understand, that the blowback, the potential loss of business, and the biggest part is your safety,
Yeah.
right? You got to remember, in New Orleans, there was a man that they blew his car up, right? Because he was the guy that was supposed to take down the statue. And that's what, folks are showing me. And, but as you think through this, and this is where I'm at, folks can label me what they want, but I feel pretty confident that if I did not do that at the time that we did it, it would still be up today. I just feel that way because no one else is willing to step up and do it. And I had folks that we have done business with for years. I say, you know what, Devon, you do that, we're never working with you again.
Now,
We're never working with you again. And listen,
this is beyond business. This is
100%.
this is some personal stuff.
Yeah.
It's not professional. That sort of attitude.
Yeah.
And it's racist. I'm sorry. It's straight up racist. I can't get with that.
Yeah. So one guy that we've had coffee, breakfast, talked about kids and everything, and he works for a large firm in the city. He said, and mind you, I'm being drug across the coals with regards to the things that they were trying to allege with me and the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So when folks are seeing all this stuff and they call me, Devon, look, I know what they're saying is not true about you because they called me. I say, well, hey, you think you can talk to the people about them calling you first and you saying no? Can't do that, but I'm with you. but know that I'm with you. Right. I got your back.
I mean, you're not trying to
Way back.
Way back.
You're not trying to tell your clients how to do their business, but they're trying to tell you.
Yeah.
I don't. That's problematic for me. And it suggests that there was more at stake than the removal of a monument.
Yeah.
The mindset that attaches such importance to whether that monument stays up or comes down. There's more at work.
Yeah.
Up in the noggin.
Up in the noggin. Yeah. So to the point of when we're trying, because clearly we couldn't do this alone, right? There was a team of about 20 folks that moved each one of these monuments across the Southeast with us, that stayed with us. But you had folks that, like I said, that we did business with on a regular basis saying, hey, would you be willing to come and be involved in this removal? Absolutely not. And we're not going to do business with you. And so that's what led to us extending the search out to other folks outside of the region to come to the region to help us take them down. And it was folks that helped us at the memorial that we had to call in Wisconsin. And then the call to Connecticut for those folks to come help us. Because from Philadelphia, Maryland, D.C., Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, folks that we called, the folks that the city called, no one, not one, was willing to be involved.
Real quick, After the Monuments is proud to thank Team Henry Enterprises for their support of our show. Team Henry Enterprises is a Black-owned contracting firm specializing in office, retail, medical, multifamily, and higher education construction of all scopes and sizes. In the wake of the George Floyd protest, Team Henry is the very firm contracted by the city of Richmond to take down the Confederate monuments in Richmond and by many other municipalities to remove other Confederate monuments around Virginia and throughout the Southeast. Learn more about Team Henry and how they can help your community rebuild, renovate, or design at teamhenryent.com.
Black folk too.
Just think of all the historic Black neighborhoods. No one had a problem plowing a highway through.
Hello,
Come
Jackson
on, Michael
Ward.
Paul.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're talking about a monument,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's the bridge too far.
That is the one.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Can we talk, get a little bit, because we could probably talk to you for hours.
Yeah.
And we don't have that. Your safety, though,
Yeah,
and your staff safety.
yeah,
As a friend,
yeah.
that's probably the thing that bothered most of us the most is, well, where's he at? Because in all the pictures, you standing right there, you know, like, is he protected? We knew God got you,
Indeed.
right?
Indeed.
But we were just wondering how you were protecting yourself and your staff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, those that wanted, we got bulletproof vests while we were on site. Those that asked, we provided any additional security. Personally, I had 24/7 security at my house, right? Neighbors, like,
This is America.
what's going on? Yeah.
This is America.
Yeah.
Because your address leaked.
Because they put my stuff out there, and my daughter was, extremely frightened to go outside, and it's crazy that to your point, this is America. It's 2020, 2021, and
Taking down statues of people who fought against America, the American government.
and fought for an institution of slavery.
Yeah.
So yeah, my daughter moved she went to college in St. Louis, or she's going to college in St. Louis, and said she feels better.
Yeah.
At one point she said, I prefer just to stay at St. Louis. No, come on home. So yeah, safety has always been paramount in what we, and that's why the same group of folks travel with me and us as we take on these other monuments in other places, because they know when I go in there to talk to the, whether it's a mayor, a governor, or president of the university, whoever, they're very strict guidelines, very strict things that we have to have in order to do this. And there's no deviation. And they know I got their back, and they know that I'm pushing for these things, and they know that they're not going to step on a site that these things hadn't been adhered to, and that they feel a level of comfort doing what we're doing.
The John Mitchell, and we could get into it. He said, a Black man put the monuments up. I'm not saying the quote exactly. And there's going to be a Black
So
man.
when the time comes, Black man will take them down.
That's what he said.
Were you aware of that history before you took the endeavor on?
You know what, Brother Williams? I did not know about that. But just about everyone in Richmond made sure I did know about it after, my name was put out there and everything. And then when I started researching a little bit more, this whole process has just made me so much more eager to learn about my history, eager to learn about, those that came before, eager just to understand, what the hell was going on in this city at that time. But yeah, I when I was up in the basket and we were, getting ready to lift off Lee, and, I had the walkie-talkie talking to the Capitol Police, and I tell them it's coming up. It's getting ready to come. Like, I know it. And by that time, we'd gotten pretty good at it. We won't take a lot of time to get this stuff down. And so,
just a chilling efficiency. I like in my lead, I kind of contrasted to to Stonewall.
Yeah.
Stonewall was tough.
We was out there, man.
And then I think my lead was something like what was surprising was how meekly Robert E. Lee surrendered.
Right?
Yeah. It was it just, the research and the due diligence and the recon that we had to do, we got better at understanding how they were built, who was the sculptor, what time period was it done, and kind of looking for bolts, nuts, pins, whatever it was. So when I told the our handler, if you will, hey, we got all the pins and it's getting ready to come. In that moment, and I took a step back and I was doing all this stuff and it hit me like a bag of rocks. Just, whoa. Whoa.
I mean, in hindsight, it was preordained. It's almost like if it didn't work out this way because no one else wanted it or whatever, maybe you should have gone that route anyway to fulfill the prophecy. It's justice. I mean, we put them up.
It's unbelievable.
We take it down.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I first heard, so once it came down, we were looking for a time capsule too, right? So, and I mean, everybody was hell bent on making sure that this time capsule was found in a safe and in a manner which you can recover the items inside. So we found one. We knew where we had an idea. We had an idea where it was supposed to be based on information. But then we found one that was like up in the middle of the pedestal. It didn't fit the description of what it was. And I was like, holy smokes. Maybe the black folk put one in there and said, you know what? To hell with this statue. But I was disappointed that wasn't what it was.
But let's stay with, because, as we've done a lot of reporting from Richmond Times-Dispatch, and for those that are listening nationally, the Richmond Times-Dispatch is 172 years old, right? Maybe older than that. And as I was doing reporting, it was awkward and made me feel a little way when I could say, the Richmond Times-Dispatch reported. Yeah. And I'm talking about stuff that was happening with Lee. And, it's the Richmond Times-Dispatch was there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The time capsule piece, can you talk about you also being there when the one that we wanted to find was opened up? Yeah. And then what feeling that gave. And I'm going to reference Dr. Cisha Joy Moon.
Yeah.
Because
Doc Moon.
Yeah, she was in the Valentine Museum, and she came across a piece of Stonewall's hair. And she touched it. And she said she immediately got freaked out. She was like, I should have never touched it. I should have never been close to that racism. She felt very icky, and all of the emotions of probably ancestors and all that stuff came out of her.
Yeah.
Did you have any feelings when that box opened up, knowing that these monuments are stone or brick or whatever, but these pieces of things were actually held by these people?
So the capsules, they for me it was different, right? I was contracted to do that, right? It didn't have a lot of emotion to me about what was inside. I knew that there were people that wanted them. I knew that there was potential valuable items that folks wanted to be able to obtain, but it didn't. For me, it didn't have the same significance of taking the statue off of the pedestal. Yeah. Now, to your point about Dr. Moon, who I have a great admiration for her and her sister, we have, from every single one of these removals, there's been a piece of a bolt, a pin, a nut, rubble, something that just happened to stay with me, right? Mm-hmm. And I got a similar reaction when I was talking to an elder, and I said, I got, these pieces that, some are really, we got cleaned up, looks very museum-like in some regard. But she was like, why would you want to keep that? Like, what do you know what, these things meant. For me, it represented the crumbling, right? The dismantling. Like these things we took off. This boat that I have right here is the boat that we cut, that lifted that thing off and got him up out of here.
It's history. I
Yeah.
mean, they have the Jefferson Davis statue at the Valentine in its current state after the protesters redesigned him. And
Redesigned him.
Yeah. And
He's cute now.
I said he looked like an AKA member and
Bill Martin.
Oh, Michael Paul.
He got a lot of pink on him.
Yeah.
And Bill and they kind of like, oh, don't go there.
Yeah,
They knew they'd heard it before.
Yeah.
But it's all history.
Yeah.
I mean, we lived with those statues forever, and I'm surprised that someone would feel revulsion at you having a piece of it.
Yeah. And when I explained to them from my perspective, this is how I viewed this and viewed the piece. But what's interesting? So we moved the Davis to the Valentine, and those folks have been very great. They have a very conflicted history as well they're embracing.
Yeah,
right?
they sure are.
It seems to me that they're embracing it.
Yeah.
And the staff has been great. But yeah, we set it up the way that they did. One of the things that I think is important to know is that a lot of folks, we've been from Louisiana to Florida to here, asking us to do this work, right? And then we'll entertain it, but there's some that say we want you to put it back up somewhere, like here, take it down, put it up over here, and then we'll pay you X whatever to do it.
Pause. Get it out, Michael.
What's that?
You got to cough again? Yeah, we're pausing for a second just so you can cough.
No.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
But the point is, I won't do it.
Okay.
So to the point we were just making about how the Davis is being displayed now, I told them I wouldn't move it in there if you plan to put it on a pedestal. And they were like, no, we want to show it how the protesters took it down in this pink and green.
in his real pretty stand.
Yeah.
I want to get into, because I know again we're on a time crunch, and I want to make sure I get this point out. Charlottesville. I want to get into Charlottesville.
Okay.
We celebrating its 5th anniversary of two things. This week of the monuments being taken down in Charlottesville, and then coming up in about 3 weeks, the Unite the Right rally.
Yeah.
Did you have involvement in Charlottesville's statues?
Yep.
Okay. Talk a little bit about that, and more so, you also built the monument to enslaved laborers on the University of Virginia's campus, feet away from where the tiki torches were lit.
Yeah.
And I'm excited that Michael Paul and I will be able to enjoy the space and do some interviews from there, and the importance of literally looking behind us to know that that's where racism happened by some University of Virginia alums. However, the university has taken charge of its wrongs with this. Yeah.
I remember when that happened very distinctively, and I remember you were very, very troubled by what happened, as is everyone, right? That should have been, except for the folks that said there were fine people on both sides, right? So when I think about Charlottesville, I think about a very, very cool place that has embraced me for the work that we've been doing. Yeah, we built an extension on the hospital, their UVA hospital expansion. But the most meaningful project that we've ever done in our 16 years is the memorial to enslaved laborers. Recognizing that there were slaves that built that university, right? That have been voiceless for centuries, right? And finally get an opportunity to have some sort of recognition, and their descendants are there to kind of witness that. Again, folks thought that would never happen. That the recognition would be provided for something that should have been for years and years and years. So yeah, it was a special thing. I commend the university for the manner in which they did it. We've gone places where there's just a plaque. There's just something in the ground, a brick. But no, they put together and wanted to be intentional about the design. Everything is symbolic. The nature of the stone to the positioning of the stone. Again, the most meaningful project, the most meaningful work that we had, the most meaningful project that we have done. And it won every single architecture award you can think of. Wow. And it was on every front page of this and that in the architecture world.
When you went into this business in 2006, did you foresee the social justice bent that it would take?
No. Couldn't even see that far, right? I'm thinking we're just going to be building latrines and and barracks and things like that for the federal government and roads and stuff like that. I had no idea that God would turn our course to where we are today, and we just so blessed to be able to, we get a lot of calls from folks that want to do meaningful projects now, right? That from Richmond Hill to the Skipwith project. Mm-hmm. To
I'm heading out to Richmond Hill after this.
Yeah, so Pam Smith and working with some very, very talented people, but the work that we've recently done has put us in a position that we to understand the true meaning of doing good work, getting into good trouble, and how that translates to helping out our people.
So that kind of made you like the go-to business.
Look, man. I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining.
Yeah.
One memorial to social justice put up or taken down, or one that's the antithesis of social justice taken down.
So yes, the memorial was very meaningful, and it has allowed us to do other things that are extremely meaningful to not just us, but to the public.
And I think that's important to end on. This very hard social justice work has allowed you now to almost give back to the work that should be done, and has put you in a position to be able to almost be the template or the guide to how we recreate these monuments and what a monument means and how we are paying recognition or homage to everyone that is part of American history. So, Devon, any last words from you, as I know we got to go? Anything that you feel like, again, this platform, which is a national platform, however, majority of people are going to be listening right here from Central Virginia. Any last words from you?
No, I'm truly honored and very thankful. Stand and sit next to you, two people, two amazing humans that I think extremely fond of and that have done tremendous things. So it means a lot for me to be here.
Well, it means a lot for us to sit next to the embodiment of a prophecy.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. One thing I will say, and I wouldn't be doing what I do if I didn't, the question that kept coming up was around what the statues are down now. Devon, okay, that was fine. What does that mean? And we decided to do something to take it a step further, and we created an entity that around where we're talking about these social causes. So we identified 13 social causes, tied them to the Confederate flag, right? So each star from the Confederate flag represents a removal, and we tied that to a social cause, whether it's mental health, maternal and infant health care, social justice, LGBTQ, HBCUs, voter rights, criminal justice reform, 13 different social causes that have impacted Black and brown people for decades. And so we've turned the monument removals into to the 21st century into what we call NFTs. And so we wanted to. It's doing a few things. One is teaching us more about this Web3 thing that I don't think we can avoid that's happening, and that for our people to understand, here's ways that we can do. So it's an intersection between technology and philanthropy. So the goal is not for me. It's I'm just the conduit because I've had this platform that folks have graciously put me on. But it's for us to raise money for these nonprofits that are doing great things that just need, some more funds to continue to doing the good work. Yeah. So Crypto Federacy is the entity, Crypto Federacy. And the 13 stars is what the first NFT dropped, and we're raising $13 million
Wow.
to give to 13 different organizations. And we have different nonprofits on board already that are going to be reaping the benefits and bringing awareness to these causes and these issues that Black and brown people have been dealing with forever.
Wow.
All right.
That's why he's my friend. But also, again, as Michael Paul said, just a prophet in the way that God literally, this was his plan for you. And I'm excited to see what you take down next, what you put up next, and all the other things that you do with Team Henry Enterprises. So thank you, Devon, for being on After the Monuments, a real talk about race, a real conversation about race. We talking about race with Michael Paul Williams and Kelly Lemon. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time. After the Monuments is a Virginia Video Network production and produced by Matt Pachilli, Michael Paul Williams, and me, Kelly Lemon. Technical direction and editing from Bill Barksdale. Executive production from Paul Farrell, Diane Salvatore, and Paige Mudd. Will Royer provides studio support. Our artwork is by Krishna Mathis. I'm Kelly Lemon, and we'll see you next week on After the Monuments.